Well, when I was a little boy sitting on my mama's knee.
Hello, welcome to Going Deeper. My name is Marcie Sclove, and it is quite a time we are having right now in October 2020. We are battling a pandemic and staying home. That's why we are here on Zoom today. Over 210,000 Americans have died from COVID-19. We are 3 weeks away from the presidential election, and our current president and many top officials are sick with the virus. Every day, we have more unbelievable news. Just yesterday, members of a white supremacist militia group were arrested for plotting to kidnap the governor of Michigan. You could not make this stuff up. So we carry on, finding beauty and hope wherever we can. And that is why I am so happy today to be sitting with Dr. Ruth Bass-Green, an active educator, teacher of piano and voice, and a church musician. She has served underprivileged and privileged students of diverse age, race, and gender for 50 years, over 50 years. Ruth is also the founder of the Hazel Catherine Bass Music Institute, and she is retired from Mount Holyoke College, where she was Dean of Sophomore Studies and Multicultural Affairs, and a lecturer in the psychology and education departments. So we will be hearing music and about Ruth's life and her wonderful contributions. Welcome, Ruth. I'm so happy to be with you. We tried for months to do this, and finally, today's the day. Welcome.
Thank you, Marcie, for that nice welcome. I'm excited too, and ready to get started.
Great, great. So why don't you just kind of set the mood with one of the beautiful spirituals that comes from your CD that you created called Spirituals, Reflections, and Meditation.
The one that I want to play right now is by Duke Ellington. And I think this particular song is very, very important in times like we are having now, with all the hate and the anger and the fear that is going on in our world, and with communities of people of color and white people and brown people and so on. And so Duke Ellington wrote the song, Come Sunday. And the lyrics in that song that really penetrate with me is, the song says, Lord, dear Lord above, God of mercy, God of love, please look down and see my people through.
Yes. You know, Ruth, when I was preparing for this interview and just to kind of get in the mood, I turned on your CD. And I tell you, just instantly, my parasympathetic nervous system just calmed down. All of my like anxiety and too much internet, too much Zoom, too much news, all of the things that are keeping us all like so uptight, just calm down. And that's the experience I'm having right now with that beautiful song. Thank you for that.
Well, it's interesting that you say that the music helps to calm you down, because that is the comment that I get and the feedback that I get all the time.
Yeah.
And what's fascinating is many people say they love to drive and travel with the CD because again, it helps them to
Yeah.
be calm and
Yeah.
in a nice contented place, but also very safe place.
Right, exactly. So I'd like to start the conversation by asking you about your early life and what in your early life, like you have these sisters and this prominent father and the church and music and all of the things that made up your childhood. And how did that inform this path that your life took?
Well, it's fascinating. When I think back about my life, I lived a very rich and full life. I have 4 other sisters. The oldest one is Connie, and then I come next. And under me is Rosemary, and under Rosemary is Lois, and under Lois is Joyce. And all 5 of us grew up singing together, playing instruments. What I have to thank my mother for and my father was that they saw to it that all 5 daughters learned how to play the piano, the violin, and sing. And what was also very interesting is that because my father was a minister, and when I think about my dad as a minister, and the fact that he became a fundamentalist minister at the most critical age of me, turning 16. And I had been looking forward to the idea of wearing makeup, going to my prom, and doing all of the things of the world, as the church people would call it. And then my father becomes a minister. But that's a whole nother story. What I want to stay on is how it was the case that we were all very happy people. My father's father was the first dairy farmer in Chowchilla, California. So we used to drive with my dad and mom to Chowchilla to my grandfather's dairy farm. Not only did they have cows, but they also have the fruits, the vegetables, and all the farm kind of food, and so on. So we experienced a life of good food, a life of I never wanted for anything.
Wow.
And I always thought that we were very wealthy people. But it wasn't until I took a class at Los Angeles City College, and they talked about income, the number of net family members, and so forth and so on. That was when I learned that we were considered to be low-class people, when we were truly seeing ourselves as upper class. Sure. And we lived in that way.
Yeah, sure. I mean, here we are in New England, and the Amherst area. Both of us are in Amherst, and so when I think of what I know about California and just the richness of the land, the food, the climate, and to hear that your grandfather was a farmer, a dairy farmer, sure, it makes perfect sense that you were full of abundance, that
Yes.
you did come from richness.
Right.
It's just this other weird categorizing of money income
Right.
that was what made people in these slots.
Right. Yes, you're right.
Yeah. So who was Hazel Catherine Bass?
Hazel Catherine Bass is my mother.
Okay. Because, you started the Hazel Catherine Bass Institute for the Arts, you and your sisters.
Right. And we did that in honor of our mother,
Okay.
who was our first musician. And
Yeah.
he was the first one to help us to know and understand the value and importance of music. Not only just church hymns, we also went to the opera. So my parents exposed us to a wide range of music.
Yeah. So I'm thinking too, like when you were 16, okay, so you were born in 1939.
Yes.
So when you were 16, that was 1955.
Yes.
So 16, wanting to, step out a little, makeup, all of that. But it was also kind of the beginning of the civil rights era, right? I mean, were you having any sort of pushback with your father related to activism or any of those things?
It's really fascinating that you asked me that question, because when I think about it, we were so, how do I describe my family? So about being positive, so about seeing ourselves as very special people and individuals, but seeing ourselves as not protesters.
Mm-hmm.
It was my Aunt Hattie Caldwell who helped me to understand why people were protesting.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It was my Aunt Hattie who helped me to know that having an afro was right on.
Mm-hmm.
It was my Aunt Hattie who smoked cigarettes. Let me know, hey, that's something that I could do.
Right.
It was my Aunt Hattie who drank wine. And again, there was an area that I could relate to, that of course my parents would not want me to smoke cigarettes.
Right.
They would not want me to drink wine.
Right.
They did not want me to go to the prom and all of the high school baseball and football games and stuff like that. I was to not attend to anything that was worldwide, outside of the pure religious thinking that they had at that time.
So you grew up in LA, right?
Right.
So was your community, your neighborhood segregated in LA, or did you go to a mixed school?
Actually, our neighborhood was very diverse, but primarily Black families. And the schools that I went to were all diverse too, but primarily Black teachers.
Oh my gosh.
And
that's amazingly good.
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
And so it was a case that, well, life was different back then. People were more civilized. People were more able to be kind and not so mean and uncivil as they are today. And so the community where I grew up was one whereby, hey, people looked out for each other, respected each other, and so on.
There was, though, at that time, there was still severe racism going on.
Oh, yeah.
But
Yes.
it doesn't sound like you had that experience in your own community. Is that, or did you experience race and your family experience racism firsthand?
When I think about how my family experienced racism firsthand, I can tell you that my father left Oklahoma
Mm,
because of a situation that he was put in where a white man did something and my father did not let that happen. In other words, he fought back.
ooh,
When I think about my dad, I remember the incident where we were at Griffith Park. That was a park in the area in Los Angeles, whereby we loved going there because they had the observatory. We could go to the observatory and see all the beautiful things relative to the stars and the planets and so forth. And so what I can tell you is that it seems as though my family always integrated.
mm-hmm.
And so we were taken to places where there was primarily white people. But we felt as though, we can go wherever we want to go and do whatever we want to do and eat wherever we wanted to eat,
Wow.
what have you. And so this white man said something to my dad about one of my sisters who I guess had gotten in his way at some point. And my mother and her sister had to calm my dad down and said, hey, no, daddy, just back off, So there were incidents and cases whereby we had experienced racism, but we knew how to handle it and deal with it.
So that incident that happened, it was in Oklahoma? No,
my father was in Oklahoma.
Uh-huh.
My father migrated to Los Angeles.
Okay. So he was part of the Great Migration.
Yes.
That big story. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So when this man got upset with your sister and then your father got, that happened in California though, not in Oklahoma.
It happened at Griffith Park in California.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, it sounds a little bit like some of it, your different experience from, let's say, the people who stayed in the South was partly because California was somewhat different. That
right.
that you had these neighborhoods and these communities of integrated communities where people were civil and they were respectful of each other and and that there was more, there was just more self-esteem and self lifting up,
Right.
Yeah. So tell us about the Hazel Catherine Bass Institute for the Arts. Like, what was your vision when you created that?
We created that in honor of our mother, and also in order to give opportunities to students whose parents could not afford for them to take music lessons. Mm-hmm. So that we would be the ones that would teach them how to read music, how to play their instruments, and so on. Mm-hmm. And so that was the gift that we felt from our mother to extend to members of the community, especially when many of the elementary, junior high, and high schools eliminated the arts programs from their schools.
Right.
And so we wanted to fill that gap. And it was the case that the music teacher at our elementary school was the one who introduced us to the Nutcracker Suite. And she was the one that introduced us to many classical pieces. Mm-hmm. So we, as a family, wanted to be able to provide opportunities to individuals or families that cannot afford to send their kids to a private school for those kind of lessons. And so that was the whole goal and purpose. That is the whole goal and purpose for the Hazel Catherine Bass Institute for the Arts.
So I saw on the website that a lot of your performances and your activities, annual activities and things, it's like some of them happen in California.
Yes.
And some of them happen at the Lutheran Church here in Amherst, or at least
Right.
have.
Yes.
So are you using that that platform, that organization here in Amherst as well, to teach young people and different ages of people music in the same philosophy?
Yes, I most definitely am. And I have the Lutheran Church in Amherst to thank for allowing me to use their space for our recitals. We always have an annual recital in November, and we get to go to that church and present our students in recital. And if you go on our website, you can see some of our students perform.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
That's amazing. Yeah. So speaking of performing, would you like to play another song for us from your CD? Why don't you tell us a little bit about Amazing Grace?
Wow. That Amazing Grace is a fascinating song by John Newton. And what's fascinating is that John Newton is a white man who was a captain of a ship that would ship enslaved people to different places where they would be enslaved. And the amazing grace of it is that at some point John Newton realized that what he was doing was not a good thing. And so he stopped shipping people to places to be enslaved. And Amazing Grace is the hymn that he wrote in order to cleanse himself of the horrible kinds of things that he did to contribute to slavery. And I will play my arrangement of Amazing Grace.
Now, recently I heard you tell a story about, I think it's about this song, that it was done on the Black Keys.
Right. Whitney Phipps talks about that.
Tell that
Yes.
story. I love that.
He talks about how it's the case that this older elderly Black woman at his church let him know that most of all the spirituals are written on all the Black keys and based on the pentatonic scale. So I'll play the Black keys for you.
Yeah.
Every time I feel the Spirit living in my heart, I will pray. So that's one spiritual.
Wow. Yeah.
Swing low,
Right.
sweet chariot, coming for to carry me home. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming for to carry me home.
There's
All
like
Black keys.
all a kind of a haunting quality, a warm, deep, haunting quality to it.
Right.
I love that.
Yes.
That's amazing. So I'm curious to hear more about Aunt Hattie, because moving into your 20s and on, first of all, when did you, well, I won't ask about that yet, but moving into your 20s and on and getting into the 60s, the 1960s, and the civil rights movement, I can imagine that Aunt Hattie was more aware, involved, participating. I don't know on what level. And that your parents might have been still very worried about you and your sisters. Is that what happened?
Aunt Hattie was more aware about the issues of race than I think my parents. Mm-hmm. I think my parents really blended and identified with the white race. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. My father was a Republican. My whole family was Republican. I was a Republican until Obama ran. Wow. And that's when I had a conversation with my father and I said, Daddy, I got to let the Republicans go because I wanted to vote for Obama in the primary. Mm-hmm. And that's when I went and changed my status as a Republican.
How did he react?
Oh, my father was dead. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, he was dead at the time.
So he didn't like turn over or anything.
No, I should have been clearer about that. No, really. So, again, like I said, my parents really wanted to be non-confrontational and also identified themselves as individuals who were conservative.
Wow.
Who always did the right thing. And the reason that my father became a Republican was because at a certain point in time in history, the Republicans were the ones who invited Blacks to be a part of their party.
Yeah. No, that was the history back then.
Yeah.
So what shifted that brought you out here to New England?
My Aunt Hattie.
I love this woman. I'm telling you, I haven't heard anything about her before.
Because she was the one that helped me to understand that I needed to get my education.
Wow.
She was the one that decided that I should go to Pasadena Nazarene College.
Mm-hmm.
So I moved into the house with my Aunt Hattie and my Uncle George. I moved into their Spanish stucco house
Ooh.
that my Uncle George built himself.
Wow.
And the house is on Washington Street. And the house is walking distance to the Rose Bowl.
What?
Yes.
That's amazing.
And so it's funny that when the Rose Bowl parade would happen, my uncle would open up his space on his tennis court for people to park their cars.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
I was always excited to go and help, folks to park the car. But anyway, I think I'm getting off the point now. Where am I supposed to be going with this, Marcie?
No, we were talking about how you got here. So you started out at Nazareth.
Yeah. Pasadena Nazarene College.
Yeah.
And it turned out that I needed financial assistance. And so I applied for financial assistance. And what I was given was a job as a mother's helper at a white family who lived in Pasadena.
Mm-hmm.
And it, as it was, the mother wanted me to do more things than I was capable of doing. She wanted me to cook the dinners. She wanted me to clean the clothes. She wanted me to clean the house, and had all of these things that I didn't even know how to cook. I didn't know how to clean clothes. All that stuff was done for me.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I said to her, I can't work for you anymore. And she said, excuse me, how are you going to get a job? Who's going to hire you? I said, well, I will soon find out, but what I know that I'm not going to work for you any longer.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's when I quit that job. And it was the case that at Pasadena Nazarene College, that's when I was able to demonstrate my gifts as a musician.
Oh my goodness.
And I definitely impressed them. And all of the people there was just like, whoa, because I had perfect pitch.
Mm.
And so the opportunity for me to come to the University of Massachusetts School of Education happened. My dear friend Carol Ann Prudhomme was a sister-in-law to Atron Gentry, who was the dean of education at the University of Massachusetts, Amherst. And so I was able to move from Pasadena to Amherst, Massachusetts.
How old about were you then? How old?
That was in 1971.
Okay.
And so I was in my 30s.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's when I moved to Amherst, and I am still here.
Yeah. So you got your, that was your master's, and then you got your PhD here
yes.
also.
But I had gone to California State University where I got my BA in music education.
Yeah. And you did a lot of work with Head Start.
Oh, yeah. I was a Head Start teacher, the very first program in Pasadena.
Wow.
And it was my education supervisor, was the one who recognized my gift as a teacher and using the arts as a mechanism to increase the scale, increase the vocabulary of the Head Start children. And she recommended me to work at Pacific Oaks College, which is a major college for preschool teachers. And so I got the opportunity to work there and teach Head Start teachers how to use music, movement, and singing and instruments in the classroom.
It's fantastic. It's fantastic. Wow. Wow. So, I want to just talk a little bit about where we're at right now.
Okay.
And, you know, I mean, I opened with a whole bunch of things that are happening that are just off the charts, crazy, horrible. And yet there is so much powerful, good stuff happening now too. The Black Lives Matter movement, the protests where more white people are showing up to support and be part of the Black Lives Matter movement, more solidarity in that way. And in some funny way, I heard someone this morning talk about a benefit of COVID was her appreciation of nature. And how she never really noticed when she was so busy with her life. And now she really loves to get herself out in nature.
Right.
And so I'm always looking for the silver linings. I'm always looking for the positive things that are coming out of this time. But I would just love to hear about your reflections about where we're at, and politically or in terms of social issues, or however you want to take it.
You know, I am very grateful for the life that I lived. I am very grateful to all of the people who had influence and helped me to become who I am. And it has to do with my family members, my church members, my teachers, all of those individuals who are in my life were the ones that helped me to be who I am. And I really give a lot of credit to my mother. And because when I think about how it was the case that my mother was the one who knew how to help her daughters understand their value of not letting a man take advantage of them, their value in being true to themselves.
Wow.
And so I even wrote a piece about my mother, how it was the case that she was the one that when I told her that the violin teacher was touching my breasts, the violin teacher was fired. That the dentist likewise had touched my breast. The dentist was fired. And so there were things that were happening in our world that's happening now, and did you read about and hear about?
Yeah.
And so my mother knew how to take care, how to protect us.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
And so that's why I think the thing that I'm feeling right now as I deal with the plagues and the COVID stuff, COVID is unveiling a lot of our history, the history for Black and Brown people and the history for women. And so the truth will be known, what the truth is coming out. And we're being exposed to things that are not real, but are real for some people because of the hate that they have
Yeah.
in their hearts. And, you know, some days I say to myself, boy, what is it about Black people and brown people that white people don't like and don't understand? What is that about?
Yeah.
Where does that come from?
Yeah.
And I say to myself, it comes from a place where they don't like themselves.
Mm.
Anybody that has that much hate in them does not like themselves.
Yeah. Wow.
They're not happy.
Yeah.
And people seek pain.
Mm.
In when your life is good, you are good and you spread it, that goodness. Right. But when you're suffering, other people will suffer as well.
Right, right. I can just only imagine, since I haven't formally met your children and grandchildren, I can just only imagine how you have imparted all of this wisdom to them.
I did my best.
Yeah, I guess that's all we can do.
On it. And they love their Nana.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, they do. Yes.
Sure.
As a matter of fact, Eli, my grandson, was the one that put the hardwood floors in my living room, dining room, and kitchen and created this other situation for me where I found out my music as I play my piano bounces off and echoes.
Right.
I had to make some different changes in the house. But no, I have beautiful, beautiful grandchildren, and I'm very proud of them and the things that they're doing to make a difference in the world and in their lives.
Yeah, yeah. So how about we hear about the song, Oh Freedom?
Oh, okay. That song is what we all should be looking forward to.
Yes.
Because it's the song in terms of the civil rights movement where they were saying, oh, freedom, oh, freedom, oh, freedom for me. You won't bury me in the grave because I will be free. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying the lyrics as they are, but I will play it for you. Okay.
Thank you. That'd be great. Wow. Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. So, Ruth, what else would you like to say to people?
What I like to tell people is that it's love that's going to make the difference.
Mhm.
We have to learn how to love ourselves so that we can love each other. And when I say love yourself, I'm not talking about it in a narcissistic kind of way. I am speaking about it in a very healthy kind of way,
Mhm.
so that you take care of yourself in such a manner that you feel healthy, you feel strong, you like who you are. You're
Mm.
not angry at your mom and your dad. You've forgiven whoever messed with you and messed over you. You have to learn how to love. First you have to learn how to forgive too. And I
Mm.
think the loving is sort of the thing that helps turn you around, so
Yeah.
that you will be in a place where you can forgive. It doesn't mean that you forget necessarily
Right.
either.
Right.
It means that you have a better understanding of who you are and how you fit into this big family of people in your community
Yeah.
and in the world.
Yeah. Yeah. I think those are great words of wisdom. Great words of wisdom. Thank you so much. Um, gosh, I feel like, we're coming to a close here with the interview, and I just wonder if there's one more song you'd love to sing for us, or at least play for us.
You know what came to mind?
Tell me.
Dona nobis pacem.
That would be beautiful. That would
Grant
be
us peace. Okay?
okay. Oh my goodness. Ruth, thank you so much. I really, really am so grateful that you took the time and effort to do this with me and for us to create this interview together.
Thank you, Marcie, for asking me.
Yeah.
I was nervous about this whole thing, but I'm okay now.
You feel okay?
I'm okay, and I'm glad that we were able to do it. I appreciate
Oh,
how you felt about my music
yeah.
and my mission
Yeah.
with the Hazel
Yeah.
Catherine Bass Institute for the Arts.
And
And people can go online to HCB Institute for the Arts and
yeah.
see our family and all of that.
Absolutely. And buy the CD. It's called
All right.
Spirituals, Reflections, and Meditation. And we'll put up a little template for it in the credits for the show.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So before we close, I also really want to thank the Greenfield Community Television folks.
Yes. Yes.
They are organizing all of this. I also want to put a shout out to Amherst Media, who offered some lighting to
Right.
Ruth, and
Yes.
Dee Shabazz, who helped to really put this together for Ruth. And this and all of the other interviews that I have done can be seen on marciesclove.com, which is my website. And just everybody stay safe, wear a mask, show your love for the world, and take it in. Thanks, Ruth.
Thank you, Marcie.
And see you all next time on Going Deeper.
Okay.